What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another segment of AV Automatic Victory, where we all win together through peace, love, and transparency. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope everyone had a blessed Wednesday and everyone has had a very, very blissful rest of the week thus far. So, welcome to Matters of the People. I am very, very excited to start episode one of this podcast. If you guys had already saw the introduction or at least the announcement in regards to matters of the people, you guys definitely know that this is going to be the series where we are going to get very, very real. We're going to be very, very raw. And more importantly, we're just going to just put it out there. Just talk about the real issues that currently aren't really being discussed, not just in mainstream media, but also just in general as well. So let me first go ahead and where is my intro? I know my intro is somewhat over here. So shout out to the three people that's also in this live stream as well. I appreciate you guys. You guys could have been at any other live stream, but you decided to come to mine. And I am truly, 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 truly gracefully appreciative of that. So once I start this introduction, I will allow one of my best friends from college, Mr. Tony, to hop up in here. So let's get right into that intro right now. All right, everyone. It is time to bring in my honored guest tonight. This is without question one of the biggest, hugest best friends I've had, especially in the college that we both went to at the exact same time. Please welcome Mr. Tony.
What's good?
What's going on? How are you, man?
Man, I've been good. Just chilling, hanging out with you. What about you? How you been, bro?
I've been good. I'm feeling blessed. You know what I'm saying? Got a roof over my head, warm food that, like I just told you, I just cooked for myself just to keep myself full. Can't be eating up later in the middle of the night or anything like that. But I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm very, very good. I appreciate you.
Here, man.
I definitely appreciate you for hopping on the live and just being willing to hop on my live, being my official guest of Matters of the People podcast. I definitely appreciate you, man. Definitely appreciate you. So, I want to start with the COVID release plan, or as they call it, the American Relief Plan. So, actually, first off, let the people know in the live chat, who you are, what is it that, anything that you want to share with our guests.
Sure. So honestly, 25, trying to get my career together. One of my biggest goals is to be a doctor. That's something that Chris knows from way back in college. So that's definitely been my biggest dreams. I'm also really interested in a lot of psychology and sociology. So I've done a lot of, I went to grad school, got my master's in biomedical sciences with a concentration in the bioethics of just the entire system of medicine, which also, funny enough, also falls into all aspects of life, people's living standards, to politics, to the policies, to, the healthcare system. So I've definitely dived into the different areas and honestly just really am an advocate for the welfare of people, just like everyday people who are struggling every single day, who are waking up in the morning till late at night, trying to provide for their families, do the best they can. And that's what I'm really interested in.
Definitely. We appreciate you, as I said, hopping up on here. Let me check the comments just to make sure we don't miss anybody. Live with Taffy, thank you for pulling up to the live stream. One of my newest and funnest subscribers. If you guys have not, definitely check her channel. She has a lot of lovely, interesting YouTube videos on her channel. So definitely welcome to the live stream, Life with Taffy. Love and respect, absolutely. That's how it should always be. It should always be through love and respect. Absolutely. So I want to start off talking about the American Relief Plan because I do feel that there are certain things that people may know of or they might know. They know either a little bit or they might know of it, but there's not really a lot of. Obviously, there's a lot of media coverage in the COVID relief plan, right? But no one's really talking about the exact details in terms of, even though it was passed in the House a few days ago, what's
Mhm.
really in it? Is it just the 1,400 stimulus checks? What are some of those things that are actually taken out, or a case would be? So to your knowledge, Tony, do you happen to have like any insights or any perspective in regards to the COVID relief plan?
Yeah, so honestly, the COVID relief plan is actually a very extensive plan. Honestly, if you go through it, it's pretty big. So I think this is definitely a much needed bill for sure that we definitely need. So in terms of just a little bit about the aspects of the bill, I think they do a pretty good job with unemployment insurance, with uh, you know extending it, and then on top of that, making sure that we all get another round of stimulus checks, and then also help with uh, businesses. And I know the Biden administration does want to open up schools again, so they did set aside money for that. They set aside money for businesses, and I think overall, I do like of course, minimum wage is also in there as well. It's increased minimum wage, so I think overall, it is a really comprehensive bill. And being able to pass through the House is a really huge deal. So
Right.
of course, the next step is going to be in the Senate. So that's another, round of votes that we are all looking forward to seeing how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because to your point, I definitely know for a fact that this bill it's essential. It's mandatory for not just the politicians in the House and for the Senate, but just for any particular influencer in Congress and throughout the entire United States government to at least get this particular form of bill out there so that, to your point, we can actually look out for those small businesses that really don't have that much sponsors here and there to actually be able to take care of like the people that are unemployed that have been going through, whether they've been, going through furlough and still having to go for unemployment, things of that nature. The only thing, and it's not necessary against the bill, because I love the bill. I love how thorough it is. I love all the stipulations that it has in it. Especially the minimum wage, because minimum wage, it's always been an issue, right? It's always been like a very sensitive topic because me personally, like I think in Maryland it's still minimum wage in Maryland is still $7.25 if I'm right. Is that right, Tony? Or has it still changed in
I
some
believe,
areas?
yeah, it's definitely increased. It's definitely above the federal minimum wage, which is
Mm-hmm,
$7 and I believe 15 cents or something. But it's
mm-hmm.
definitely a lot higher. But it's still not, it's still not enough for a person to just have one job and be okay.
Right, right. That's true. That's true. And it's like, that's the thing I always tell people. Like, if people think that you could just work at just one job or maybe even two jobs and get paid somewhere less than 15 bucks an hour, then, people just don't, I don't know. I don't understand why people even argue about it. You look at places outside the US, like perfect example, Denmark, for example, they literally pay people to work at majority of their occupations for like 21 plus dollars an hour. And the crazy thing is they don't work a whole full 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week. you know,
Right.
so it's just insane to me the notion of the fact that we even had to, or rather that the Biden administration or the representatives that added that particular part into the relief plan, which I'm glad they did. But the fact that we had to wait until this point to really not even just add that point, but also to look out for every single body, especially the little man people, which are more so like the small businesses, people that are really struggling, people who really have lost their quality of lifestyle because of this pandemic that in a lot of ways we kind of messed up on, aka 45. But we're not going to talk about 45. We definitely not going to talk about 45. So let me ask you this, because this kind of leads into my next topic. um
Mhm.
you had a lot of great posts on your Instagram feed story yesterday, and I
Right.
was literally like meditating, and like literally as soon as I got done meditating, I like noticed your post, and I was like, bruh, like why is he meditating the exact same things and I'm feeling right now? So can you tell me like your perspective in regards to, and it could be anything. It could be in terms of like the voting process. It could be in terms of, whether how the average American tends to go about voting for their representative, but they're not doing the due diligence that's not just focused on them, but also focusing on like the quality of life, their peers, their family, their future generations, and so forth.
Right. So I think it's such an interesting, like intricate, just system of ideologies, and on top of that, the reasons why people vote, and even deciding to vote. So I think
Hmm.
all of that plays into a part. So one of the biggest news that came out this week was that Texas opened up, all they lifted all restrictions on their businesses,
Hmm.
which is in a person, in the place of when a person's in power and they have their pressure from all different sides and people about what to do. I think one thing that I always love to do is take every issue and talk about it, topic by topic. And so we leave behind any kind of, like, I don't know, norms or whatever you're used to. It's just like, okay, what's the problem? What do we need to fix it? And I always want people to vote in that way, just because that helps, one, solve the problem, and two, also be able to see who's for helping people, because that's
Hmm.
really the bottom line of politicians. Like, it's to help people. Like, we can't keep having politicians and all they're worried about is their own bottom line. It's just you know there's so many things that are wrong. There's so many problems that we need to solve, and year after year, election after election, the same
Hmm.
problems still persist, and that is a huge frustration for a lot of people. And I'm saying this not as someone who's like, like I've I'm a politician, or I have like studied, but I'm like a regular voter who votes every election period, and so I'm more in line with how regular voters are going to think and see, because everyone can be in their own bubble. Uh, Social media and internet has also created this mini cosms of people who, like, whatever you're thinking, you can find sympathizers on the internet. So everyone could be living in their own bubble and have their own ideologies and not even realize that they're cut off from the rest of the world. Now, the thing with voting in uh, is my problem is, when you vote, the voting comes in the power of the people. And so when you have people who are not well informed, you have people who are fed propaganda for so many years, who are fed
Hmm.
with all these different things. That's just how they're going to vote. Now, my thing with politicians is that, one, they have this duality of decision making. So you're in that position because were placed by your constituents, and so you do have to make sure that they're happy. But at the same time, you also have to make sure that you're also thinking about the entire population, the entire U.S. as one body. And so you also have to think about the well-being of those people as well. So that's that duality. Now, the problem we're having is that a lot of politicians have constituents in their own state who don't really necessarily care about the well-being of everyone.
Hmm.
And so they apply pressure to their politicians, who are then in a weird position where it's like, dang, I still love my job. I still love to be a politician. I still love to, be in politics. And I would love to vote on certain ideas that I think are good. But my constituents are not for those ideas. So I could go against them and vote for the good thing, but then I won't be reelected.
Mm-hmm.
But then on either side, if you decide to do the good thing, that helps millions and millions of people, but it might upset your voters. So then you don't get reelected again. So that is that problem that a lot of politicians have, because a lot of times, especially with this recent insurrection, at the Capitol, which is crazy, by the way, that caused a lot of fear for people, because when you're in this line of work and people will literally come to the place where you work demanding that you come out, and they have guns and rifles and knives and axes, that's scary.
Oh yeah.
What I mean? That is scary. That's going to scare anyone. And so there's just all these pressures and all these things. And so uh, I always believe that politicians have to have the best interest of everyone. And I think a lot of times when we talk, topic by topic, you're going to find that it will benefit a lot of people, even the people who don't believe in it. And so when we talk about climate change, that affects everyone. It affects people in California. Texans just had a whole bunch of snow. California has all these fires, and then other parts of the United States where we have, weather abnormalities. That affects everyone. It doesn't just affect like Democrats or Republicans. It affects everyone. And so that's something that people should, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people who don't believe in that. They don't believe in the science of climate change. And it's really because they're not in any kind of science field, which is understandable, but they are being fed propaganda from the media. And those are certain media outlets that do that. And so if that's all they listen to for 20, 30 years, you think one person coming out for like 6 months is going to change their mind? Of course not.
No.
And so, what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's not. And so, and so when you have people like, man, why don't these people listen? That's the reality. That's what they're being fed. That's what they're people that they admire, that they tune in. They can't wait to get back from work and listen to this, news anchor or this news outlet. And that's what they enjoy listening to. And they're like, oh yeah, this is so true. And then, then they have their friends, their families who all say the same thing. Of course, they're going to believe that. And of course, they're going to think that's the right thing. And so, when I think, okay, climate change, to me, that's easy. That's like, hey, I don't want anything to happen to you. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican. I don't care if you disagree with me. I want us to all live on the same planet. Like, it's just, that's just me. And then if you want to go with minimum wage, same thing. Like, hey, I want you to have $15 an hour. I want you to be able to work one job, go home and relax. Like, I don't, having to work 2 jobs. And if you have kids, that's even harder. I don't want you to like be in this like area of suffering, just trying to make ends meet when it shouldn't be this hard, And then if you want to go into, we could go to almost any topic, honestly. Like, we could go to embryonic stem research. We could go into that. People are not against that. People are not against, there's a whole big debate about pro-life and pro-choice. That's a whole big, and it's like, I mean, then we have the whole thing about different religions, and then of course racism, and then of course police brutality. Like, there's so many things. There's still the water in Flint that that's still going on. There's whole bunch. There's even more people who don't have jobs. More people who are becoming homeless. Like, there's so many issues that if you go topic by topic, you're gonna find that if you care for people, you're gonna be like, yeah, we need to stop homelessness. We need to stop, people being evicted from their houses. We need to stop people not having jobs and giving them opportunities to have jobs and be able to telework from home. And, like, there's so many, and then, giving, and then thanking people, because of course with masks, like, that's the whole thing, because people still don't believe in the science of wearing masks. And it's like, that is proven to be effective. And then, but there's people who are like, yeah, they're trying to take away your rights. And it's like, we're trying to help people not get sick. That's really all it is.
That's really how it should always be. Because you're right. Like, people, especially in the line of work where I work in. So for those of you that don't know, so I have been working for an ice cream shop, one of the best ice cream shops in the world in DC, for about a year and a month now. And when I tell y'all the amount of people, see, this is one of the problems. People don't read. People don't read unless it pertains to something that benefits them. Right to your point, the amount of people that literally have to tell people like, hey, we're offering contactless service. Hey, this is not a precautionary measure for us as workers, but also a precautionary measure for the consumers as well. Because I'm gonna tell you, anything happens to this job, I'm done. Now, granted, I do got a nice little 6 to 8 month emergency savings to at least be able to live for the next 8 months without me having a job. But even still, like, it's to your point. I feel like there's just it's a whole myriad of issues and scenarios to where when you tackle them list by list by list, and then because this is my real problem with just voting for politicians in general. You have people who become politicians simply because they care. They figured out that their niche is helping others, so they do what they gotta do. Whether some of them go to school, some of them might not even go to school. Some of them might just end up getting that particular what's the one I'm looking for? They might go into several, like some of them might be more so lawyers that they were in law school, but whatever the path that they took, once they get in the door, that's when you kind of have like this split decision of, okay, do I stick to who I am? Do I stick to the standards and the morals and the experiences that I've gone through for me to get to this point and do the best that I can, kind of to what you pointed on as well, in terms of making sure that not only are your constituents, at a happy medium, but also the United States as well. And then the other spectrum of that is you do have those politicians who, they might have that and the intention to help others, but it might not even be a threat to their position. It could be a threat to something that they might continue on having as their own thumb screw. It could be something as simple as, hey, if you don't vote in favor of denying this, the American Rescue Plan or the COVID relief bill, and don't help us not pass it in the Senate, or we're gonna make sure that we get our constituents and your constituents to make sure that you lose your quality of life, and now you can't take care of whatever businesses or whatever impacts or relationships that it might involve with that person, and wherever the case may be. So I just wish that there was a way to where, rather than the media and all those different various factors kind of deter politicians and actually trying to be real political figures in Capitol Hill, I just wish there was a way to where we can just remove all of those like distractions and remove all of those just remove all the barriers, really. Just get rid of the corruption, get rid of all of the factors that like other people might want to do. Now, I'm not saying that not to allow politicians to just have politicians agree on the same thing, because that's not reality. Right? There's no way. There's just no way that you're gonna have politicians agree on the exact same solution or agree on everything, and that's fine. That's life. You know what I'm saying? People go at it all the time, but there's a difference between having a healthy argument versus a bad argument. And I feel like I would say way before that you and I was born, it's been too many cases to where politicians, rather than them try to actually come to like a compromise or case may be, it's too much negative rhetoric. It's too much of the propaganda. It's too much of politicians just doing politicians for themselves or for their own groups to make sure that, oh, we got to make sure that, both the House and the Senate is all red or all blue or whatever case may be. And then you look at some of the other political parties that not a lot of people know about. So whether it's the Green Party, whether it's the Communist or Marxist Party that we have, which surprised me a few years ago when I was in college. I was like, wait, there's a goddamn Marxist Party over here? So it's like, it's just too much. And I just feel that, looking in terms of me having an idea for like maybe the next probably 5 to 10 years from now, I don't know what politics is going to look like down the line. I mean, I hope that we're still actually able to have like some order to where like we're not in total anarchy, But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised going with the direction that, we're starting to actually see, not just with the Biden administration, but also just in terms of how many less people are willing to vote, how much less people even, less willing to even get involved with politics. Because I tell people all the time, you don't have to just focus on the federal level. You can focus on the state. You can even just focus on the local level. And not a lot of people are going to be actually able to tell you, like, oh, what's going on within their communities. Or rather be interested in, like, okay, who's your community organizer? Who's your local mayor? Is that local mayor, is he or she or they going to actually go about making sure that your interests are actually being able to take care of? So it's a lot.
No, you're right. It is a lot. And I think one of the things about arguments is that you know, when people do get into debates or arguments, I do think that a lot of times people do not, I stick to the facts. I think that's one thing that I notice. There's not a lot of sticking to the facts of, hey, like, if, minimum wage hasn't moved since, 2009, it's been a whole decade plus, like we need to increase it, but it's like, it's like, oh, well, people don't want to, there's some politicians don't want to give, they want to decrease the $400 because in this bill, they're going to add $400 to the unemployment. People wanted to decrease it to $300 because they feel like they're making way too much more than what they were making at their job. And you're like, well, the minimum wage has always been $7.15, and you're wondering why people are like, actually enjoying their families, going out, walking, like exercising, being with their family, their dog, like actually like realizing that they have to work on a lot of things in their life and not just, work your way up to being 65 and then, barely having Social Security or some kind of retirement plan. And then you're just kind of stuck, So I think a lot of times we do have to realize that if the system that we have currently is not working for a lot of people, and that's just a fact. It's not working for a lot of people. And on top of that, a lot of politicians are not going on the ground talking to everyday people. That's another problem. Like, we can have debates and arguments, but if you're disconnected from the people you're trying to help, there's, no one's ever going to say, yeah, we want less money in unemployment. And you're not going to find nobody. Like, you're going to say, oh yeah, I totally want to, decrease my unemployment of course, we're in a pandemic. And like, of course, even for me, I can't go work physically because I have parents at home that, I can't expose them. So until I get the vaccine, I can't go work physically. So it's a hampering for me. And so it's like, and then finding work online, it's not the easiest because again, my degree really is more in person. It's more, I should be in a lab somewhere. I should be doing research somewhere. I should be helping patients. And, and so mine is more hands-on, and that's hard for me now since, I can't expose my parents. I can't, and of course my other siblings, because I have a brother who's still 14 and no matter what, he still can't get the vaccine. So, it's a tough, and everyone has to make that decision for themselves. And it's like, I've never really talked to a politician in my life. I've never and so I see a lot of people who don't really come down and be like, yeah, let me go into your neighborhood and actually talk to you. Let me see what's going on with you. Let me go to the same restaurant, the same, McDonald's or Burger King or whatever. And see how it is living with the, people who just lost their jobs or got evicted, who forcefully got evicted by police officers in certain states. And so, but these are the people that are going to have healthy debates. It's just the substance is all off. It's really off. And I think we should always keep to the substance. We should, there's always people who love to go for the little semantics about this and that. And it's like, no, we have to stick to the substance of what we're talking about. If we're not doing that, then we're just wasting our time. And I think a lot of people do see that when it comes to voting for people, because a lot of times they, it's all talk about substance, right, leading up to the election when they cast the vote, and then afterwards it's just like, hey, what happened to all the things you were talking about? Where'd it go? What happened?
We'll just splat. Like,
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like that Looney Tunes thing where the little coyote, ooh, all the way to the ground. You know what I mean?
That's real though. That's the perfect anime analogy for that exact situation. You think he's gonna catch up to the Roadrunner?
Yep.
That's like the solution, and the coyote is like us trying to grab that solution. At these politicians are like constantly having us be like, oh, this is me.
Right.
I got this right here, and then you get towards the end of that cliff. And now it's like, go because he that fast, you can't ground yourself now because you like what freaking gazillion feet in the air. Only way you go down to is all the way down. So it's
exactly
it's just crazy. I DJ Main Event. What up, boy? So he says the system is broken, but the masses are brainwashed and uneducated. It's easy to swindle them. Absolutely. I agree. DJ Main Event. I really, really do. It is very, especially in this generation where, technology it's a double-edged sword. Right?
Yes.
Because it's like, on one hand, you use, because I always tell people, if you're raised in a great environment, whether you have great parents or great people, whatever the case may be, if you have that great environment with you, you're going to know how to go about things, particularly, for example, technology, in a way where you're not going to really be out there like trying to manipulate people, but you're also going to know like how to go about using the resources that we have. Unfortunately, when it comes to politics and when it comes to technology, especially from non-voters, right? I've seen it all the time. You see so many non-voters that would be like, "Oh, it's it's your vote doesn't matter. You should just go on ahead and do X, Y, and Z." And it's like, no, like, why are you adding more to the problem by deterring these people to, one, not to vote, which was a right that our ancestors and ancestors and literally fought, got tortured, got killed. I ain't gonna rant about it too much, but you get the gist of it. It's like, I feel like it's a misuse of technology, particularly in this generation where so many people are so interested in, they're so interested in what's convenient, right? They're so much more likely to try to put things out there that's only going to be convenient, because, to DJ Main Event's point, it's easy because, one, they're uneducated. They don't have that right environment that's like consciously telling them like, hey, this is how you go about, presenting your argument and doing your closing argument. This is how you go about, ways that you can come up with solutions, not just for you, but also for the greater good of the community. And rather than us having more people that are educated, because I always tell people, you don't have to get a degree to be educated. My thing is that if you're going to be someone that's educated, at least have the simple basic principles of always asking questions. That's number one. And then two, not just asking questions, but also doing your due diligence, doing the extra work, even if it means that you got to get out of your comfort zone, but it's for a great positive experience and you are actually able to take something from it, then it's lit, in my opinion. But now all people care about now is these daggone stupid old trends. Oh yeah, it's the money for me. Oh, it's the jacket for me. Well, you know what? You need to be freaking, learning how to vote and get into politics. That's what it should be for a lot of people. Because I tell you, so like, it's like a constant recycle. It's like a constant recycle. Every 4 years or every 2 years, between the presidential elections and the midterm elections, or Congress, excuse me, it's the same thing. People always want to start focusing on politics when it comes to 2 elections. And don't get me wrong, they are significant, but it's so much more than just focusing on the federal level of government. So I'm done. I'm done ranting.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think one of the main things about I'll talk about this. So the main thing about voting is that a lot of times when you're in a position to vote, right? It's going to be okay. Based on the knowledge that you have, you're going to now make a decision about where to cast your vote and to also vote. And I think those two things are very interesting topics because, you know, deciding to vote it's such a strong decision to make just because, you know, the idea that, you know, there were so many people who, you know, fought for this right for people to vote. And then on top of that, uh, seeing the people that you're voting for. I think it's definitely twofold, knowing the history about voting, but also at the same time being empowered to go and vote. And I think, you know, one of the things that I always struggle with is that there's so many politicians that are like, once you, cause I'm you know, I'm going to be real. Before I even got into this whole politics thing or really doing my due diligence and really searching up these things, I was just voting for voting, you know, like I really was, you know, it's like, yeah, this is my right. I will vote, you know, that's just how it was. And then when I really got into, man, I was doing my research. I remember, I think this was uh the last one, not that's what 2016, the one in 2016. Man, I remember doing so much research, man. I was researching my butt off. And I found so many issues and problems and the history of people voting for certain things. And I was like, this is ridiculous. You know, like this is, man, there's so many things. And then, you know, once I realized that, I was like, what, like the idea that I should vote for these people who, given their record, given what they've done in the past, and it's like, you like, is my vote really meant for that? To just end up in the same place 4 years later? And I'm just like, my vote is more than that, you know? And so I know there's a lot of people who come out and it's like, you know, I will always tell people I think it's always better to vote than to not vote. That's just, you know, that's my personal belief, and especially because, you know, voting does help sway things. You know, we can always, and I think one of the most disheartening things is that we always have to choose the lesser of two evils, and it's like, that is not a way to vote. You know, we didn't, like, a lot people did not fight for this. We didn't fight to just pick the lesser of two evils. We fought for our lives to be better, to be improved, and we're never given that. We are never given that opportunity because, you know, as much as you know, I'm just going to put this out there. I did vote for, you know, Biden in the last election, but there's so many.
Ain't no shame with that. Listen, listen. A lot of people. I told people. I said, look, who you decide to vote for is who you decide to vote for. My only thing that I tell people is that as long as you do your due diligence, and if it's a decision in terms of voting, or a case would be that you are actually not just comfortable, you know, just because you're voting, but comfortable in the sense where, like, you know that this is the one representative or person that supports your beliefs, then hey, why not? Have at it. Now, obviously, I ain't no daggone 45 Trump supporter. However, I'm not going to blow up or go off, especially if it's like a candidate that I don't entirely agree with, or rather try to shun that person out. Because I feel like that's like another element of voting too. Or at least the problem when it comes to voting is that there's so many different ways for, like, I remember this past election, I remember seeing so many people, like, you know, waiting in lines, or a case may be, because obviously there was a lot more absentee ballot votes, but for the people that actually were in the lines, or a case may be, and mind you, for all you guys that don't know, I live in the nation's capital, so I'm literally like front seat access to seeing what the heck is going on in downtown DC. And to make long story short, I've seen so many people wait in lines and they get heckled by people that were either for Biden or that were either for Trump, or even, you know, heckled by people that weren't even, you know, supporters of either of them. They were just heckling people to not even vote because the the idea of presidents being selected rather than elected has become like a very, very, very strong like group in general. Especially when you go into the whole type of woke and everything. But we're not gonna go into that. That's gonna be whole separate matters of the people. But to your point, Tony, ugh, it's just a lot,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to voting, and especially it's one thing if you're voting to voting, because I used to do that too when I was younger, especially when I was 18 years old. I always ask my dad, like, "Oh, what dad? Yeah, well, oh, hey mom, who should I vote for? You gonna vote who I vote for? Oh, well,
Yeah.
I gotta make sure I vote who they vote for because I want my cheesecake." But like you, as I got older and as I got much more involved with not just politics, but just in terms of, the ways that, quite frankly, how the United States of America has unfortunately been, run over the last, years of my life, ever since I've been a legal adult. That's when I started like getting more involved in terms of like, okay, how does this work? How do the voters, where do the votes go? And when the votes get to the people that count the votes, are they actually counting them authentically? Or they just like doing like how the daggone sneaker companies and whatever case it be, backdooring ballot absentee ballots and everything. Because I'm not gonna hold you, I wasn't necessarily I wasn't surprised of the results of this election, but I did predict that it was gonna be some situation where like they find some votes after they calculate through like normally when they do like the map on CNN and that great program that they have. I knew there was going to be a president decided on the 4th of November of last year. I knew it because as soon as I saw that number, I was like, man, listen, some of these states are about to go from red to blue, blue to red. So it's just interesting. Let's see, we got another comment from DJ Man Event. I think people will vote more if we abolish political parties. Too many folks cast a vote based on party affiliation versus the verdict for a candidate who will tackle real issues. I agree. What are your thoughts on that comment, Tony?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like I started off before, where we do need to go issue by issue. We do need to leave behind any norms, anything that and just really tackle the problem with the solution. It doesn't have to be, Republican, Democrat, or liberal, conservative. It's just let's tackle the issue so that it benefits the most amount of people. And I do think that, there is going to be because so a lot of times with political affiliation, whether you identify as Democrat or Republican, that now has become an identity. When we disagree, the reason why there's this huge divide is that now it's become an identity. Like a lot of voters do see it that way. And so I don't know if this is because of just years of time, or maybe because the internet and social media has allowed people to find people who think like them, and they've become comfortable with that kind of way of life where no one wants to be uncomfortable and go to the other side and talk about things that trade facts for facts about whose ideas are better. It's just no, my ideas are good and I'm not going to listen to anybody else. And so I do believe that, we do have to change, especially with the masses, that it has to be based on topic. It has to be about, how many people can it benefit. That has to be the substance of what we talk about. If it's not that, then it's just going to be the same thing every election cycle, every 4 years, every 8 years, whatever the term is, and then on top of that, the same thing goes with Congress, because when you are only talking about, okay, yeah, I'm a Democrat and I will therefore only vote Democrat. But, nevertheless, the Democratic person could be really bad. They could not be in line with caring for people. They could just be in the whole thing about corruption and money in politics where, they just care about what their donors think. And like, yeah, I'm going to support my, big money corporate interest donors. And it's like, okay, well, what about us? Hey, we're still here,
Right.
Hello, come back to where we are, it's just, and that's one of the biggest things where we do have the corruption. We do have that identity. Like, yes, I'm a Democrat and I'll always vote blue, no matter what, no matter how bad they are or how good they are. It's just going to be that. And same thing Republicans. It's just I'm going to vote Republican. That's it. And it's not, we can't keep doing that. We really can't. And so until we get this idea of, okay, if assuming people are like, yeah, okay, we shouldn't. So one example that I love to give is the idea of the budget, right? So there are a lot of people who get to a point where the budget's like, oh yeah, like we can't keep increasing the budget, but it's like, okay, but we can increase it when it comes to big corporations, but when it comes to small businesses, they're kind of left out in the dust. Or during this pandemic where a lot of people are losing their jobs, oh yeah, well we don't want to give them too much, we don't want to give them an extra $100. And it's like, okay, but they didn't become unemployed because they did something wrong. This is totally out of their control. And now now they have to suffer, their kids have to suffer. It's just, and we can't keep doing that. We can't keep, and then on top of that, there's this weird cycle or modern, political history where you have, Republicans will get into power, and then all of a sudden there's all these tax cuts. There's all these big money bailouts, big corporate, bailouts. And it's like, okay, hey, sure, that's nice for the corporations, right? But then when it comes to small businesses and individuals, oh, see, we can't increase the budget. I'm so sorry. I don't.
That made me so mad. That's why I was so mad earlier when I was So a lot of times I'll go to like MSN, Political, and then there's also some websites that I go to too outside of like the mainstream websites. But there was one particular stipulation that I saw earlier, actually a few hours ago, where it talked about how President Biden had agreed to remove like certain budgets out of the COVID relief plan simply because of what you just pointed out. Either they didn't agree that was the right budget or the right status, for certain people to hit this particular income or, this particular household income. And it's just like, hold up. How you going to tell me that I can't get any of this stimulus check or get a certain amount of weeks of unemployment just because of the household income that I'm providing for it? If I'm the main person that's doing my job, I'm taking care of it. I got food out for my family, my wife or X, Y, and Z, all those great factors. And then to come to find out, oh yeah, we decided to take that out just so that, it'll speed up the process to get things passed. No, that's literally doing the complete opposite of looking out for the people. Like, this is exactly why I came up with the name Matters of the People, because everything matters. Everything matters. You can't just take certain things out and then just be like, oh yeah, well, as long as we get a majority of the population, okay, we'll just leave some people in the gutter. No, that is exactly how we keep coming back to the exact same issues over and over and over again. It just sickens me.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and I think another thing about we've always had a problem with the deficit. That's another issue.
Mm-hmm.
We have a problem with the deficit. I mean, we always talk about bills, and so that's one thing that we hear $1.9 trillion, and it's just like, we're happy about what's in it, how it will affect us and everything. But then on the flip side of it, it's like, okay, but it still adds to the deficit that, as when this pandemic gets more under control, we do have to tackle that at some point. Mm-hmm. And so there's always that, that's definitely a debate to be had about how to distribute money and, who gets it. And, because the thing is, when people are making a certain amount of money, right? If you're coming out, you're going to tell me you make $50 million a year and I should give you a $1,200 check. That's like a penny to you. That's probably less. That's like half a penny. You know what I mean? Like that's like, I'm gonna, those pennies you throw in the little well.
Little pennies you throw in the coin machine.
Like, what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
So there has to be a very economic way of distributing wealth through people. I do think when people make a certain amount, and also the other thing about it is that when my parents make a certain amount of income, I've had problems with going to school, trying to get need based loans because they go based off my parents' income, and they make a little too much. But even on top of that, especially uh, when my parents, they never got the education of finances. Because yeah, you can, my dad has a whole PhD, and they've never taught him anything about finances. And my both my parents grew up poor, and so they worked hard. They got degrees. My mom's a nurse, my dad's a pharmacist, and so they really hustled hard. They really worked hard, especially with having like 5 kids. And so I'm here looking like there's 5 kids in this economy, and then on top of that, we all got like school loan debts. And even as a kid, like people say, oh, yeah, you're 18, you're an adult. But then at 18, you still got to have a Parent Plus loan with your own loan. How much of an adult are you at 18 when your parents can take have to take half your loans, So it's just like, and so my parents are in constant loan debt because, they have 5 kids. Not all of us can, not all of us can get scholarships. Not all of us can, thank God my sister right now, she got a huge scholarship because we went, and then on top of that, my mom's a G for taking my sister everywhere, going for robotics meetings to presidential meetings, all from school, plus working a full-time job, and like it's crazy. And so they're struggling, what I'm saying? They are struggling, even though they make a good chunk of money. There's still so many things to be done. And I think that's one of the things about a lot of people struggling in this economy where, if you're, unfortunately, if you have a job and you're making like $200,000, $300,000, right? You're just, you're comfortable. You're okay. You're not balling, but you're also not struggling. You know what I mean? You're in that comfortable spot. I think definitely for sure. But I think for a lot of times when people don't see anything happening in their lives, when people don't see that, okay, I voted for this candidate, so my life is just the same. No change, no different, no better, no worse, but it's just the same. And so we do have to take a look at, okay, who's impacted the most. And I think that's one of the hardest things about these COVID relief bills, where it's like, if you're making a certain amount of income and you're okay, and it's just like, oh man, now you have to think about, okay, who needs it the most, and that's, and unfortunately there will be people who are like, okay, you make a little too much, my G. You just, unfortunately, that $1,200 could go to someone else who has like 3 kids, don't have a job, just about to get evicted, could use that towards rent. And then the other problem I have with that is these one-time payments are not enough, especially for people who live in like New York.
Sheesh.
Like rent over there,
man.
Like rent over there is ridiculous. Like you're not like, you're like, and then you just lost your job, and they're like, yeah, you got to pay $1,500 this month. Oh, okay, but and there was an 8-month period where we didn't have a stimulus check. So what you gonna do that? You know what I mean? Like, and then so even if you go state by state where people are living, if people are living in DC or in Maryland or Virginia, like these places are not cheap. They're not.
None. Listen, thank God I have best friends as my roommates. Okay, because if I didn't have great people in my life to be living up here in DC, oh, my butt would either be somewhere down south. And I feel like that's like a lot of reasons why you see so many people transitioning down south. Now, obviously, there are a lot of places in the south that show that their livelihood expenses are high too. But to your point, mainly the main cities like New York for certain, DC for certain. Listen, a daggone 1,400 stimulus check, it might not help, the people that are at a good, happy medium where case and be. But it does make a difference to those that are less fortunate, people that are actually struggling, people that might not even need to check for themselves, but say if they got, some family members that are going through COVID, they can't pay their medical bills, if I was ever blessed to even get that type of stimulus check or case may be, first thing I'm gonna be doing about it is just trying to hit up the rest of my family, be like, hey, is there someone who's going through COVID? Is there someone that is going through some real like issues? Because don't get me wrong, you know, money is endless. You know what I'm saying? Like you can make money in a lot of ways. So for me personally, I've always had that mindset to where it's like, hey, if I know that I can live without having this particular amount of money, whatever case may be, then why not do the next best thing and actually transfer it or give it to someone that might need it more than me and is actually going to use it for an actual rightful cause. So I don't know.
And honestly, that's such a good mentality to have, my guy. Like it's just and for the fact that you recognize that, hey, I got some family members, I got some friends who are struggling, and they could benefit more than I can, and I know that they need the money. That's honestly, like, I guarantee you that is such a rare thing to find. You know what I'm saying? Like that's such a rare thing to find. And so I really wish and I hope that a lot of people do think more that way, where it's like, hey, like, if you're not, if you recognize that you're okay, and you see someone else struggling and you're actually moved to help them, that's all it is. That's really all. And that's all people are ever asking for in terms of like, politicians or people who vote for policies. Like that's really all it is. Hey, just give the people who are struggling and help them, because and on top of that, because and then, we always talk about like, tax cuts and tax breaks and all that kind of stuff, making sure that, even though people are able to pay taxes and we can go time and time again with people not getting the stimulus check, there has to be some kind of change with a lot of people. There has to be some, because everyone has to see some kind of change to feel like their vote matters, to feel like they're being taken care of, or they just feel like they matter. Because a lot of people don't feel like they matter. They just feel like, okay, well, I'm just a diamond in the rough, and I they don't care. It's just and we have to stop getting people to feel disenfranchised. We have to stop letting people feel disheartened to go into politics, to do their due diligence, to figure out that, we have to help our neighbor. We have to help the next person, whether we agree or disagree. We have we have to help each other. That's what being, an American is. We help each other out. That has to be the thing that puts us all together. And for the fact that people are not in the mindset of helping the next individual, because I think that might also be just in general a societal thing where it's like, we're just in an individualistic country where it's like, hey, it's me and only me, and freak the next person. And I mean, honestly, it really shouldn't be that way. There should be a balance, a mix of like, hey, like, I get it. I want my privacy. I want my, things for myself, but also at the same time to help the next neighbor. And I think that has to be the core of how we think, how we feel, how we make decisions, our actions, and how we vote as well, and the politicians that we vote for as well. So I think all of that put together, I think that sums it up nicely to, we have to respect each other and care for the next human being who is struggling, and to have that self-awareness to say, hey, I'm good, but I see you. Like, I see you. I see what you're going through. I see, sometimes you might not even understand what their struggle is. You might not understand what they're going through. You might not even understand, like, sometimes you might even not know they're struggling. Sometimes you might not even know because they look so fine. They look so upbeat and healthy and, hey, let's go get a drink. Hey, let's go do that. And it's like, but a lot of people do put up that front, and they're actually struggling, in their bank account or in their health or their mental health or whatever it is. Or maybe there's a family member they're worried about. And so we just have to get there. We have to get there with the substance. We have to get there with our actions and our mindsets as well.
Hey, listen, amen. Listen, why are you not in politics? Why are you not talking to the local mayor? y'all see why I got this man on here? Now you know. Let's see. Housing may be cheaper in the South, but the jobs don't pay well. Just a different set of problems. Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. It's wherever you go, it's going to be just a whole unique set of problems. But we are coming up on the hour mark, and I do not want to hold anyone else's time, especially since it is already, later on in the nighttime. So, any
Right.
final thoughts, my good old friend, Dr. Tony?
Yeah, I guess first off, man, I really appreciate you, bro. Man, we go way back. I love seeing you grind. I love seeing you go hard for what you're doing, man. So I really appreciate that. It's really inspiring for me and for other people as well. And I also want to say that please get in the habit of going to different circles, going to different political ideologies. Go see what everyone is thinking about. Because the only reason why I could really talk about this is that I do go and listen to, I go to different places. I go to Fox. I go to progressive channels, moderate channels. I go to all of them and I listen to everything that everyone is saying. And I think, and then of course on the flip side, making sure that, like you said, do your due diligence. Make sure you look up and research and see what who's voting for what in the Senate, in the House, as a president, in their past political careers. Look up what they're doing. Are they on the right side of the issue? It has to be back to the substance. Are they voting for things that help people, regardless of what you think? It has to help someone. And if we keep doing that, if we keep talking to people, having debates, going by the issues, I do think we'll get to a better place. I do think we'll get to uh, hopefully have people in places of power that are empowered themselves to care for other people and to reflect that in their votes, in their actions, in their words, and what they stand for. And let's not lose hope. And voting, doing your due diligence shouldn't have to be every 4 years or every 2 years. It's a
Mhm.
it's a year-long thing. It's going to be for the rest of your life as far as you have that right to vote. And so make sure you're educated. Like you said, you don't have to have a degree, get a book, listen to some news, listen to different news outlets, but go find out that information. Go get those questions answered. And honestly, I'm really excited for the future, and honestly the future generation, and seeing what they will do and what they will bring to the table as well.
Right. Absolutely. Well said. Well said. You literally was reading my mind as I was coming up with things to say for my final thoughts. But no, I agree. My to your point, I think it just comes down to substance and you doing everything that you can to not just do things for your own self benefit, but to you just to have that mindset to just look out for the next man or look out for the person that might, need more assistance or might need more help as opposed to you, regardless of what the situation is or circumstances where a case may be. I just wish that, we actually get to a place to where won't be no necessary need for us to have any like differences, whether it's political ideology or difference in opinion in terms of like, oh well, if you're not a part of this member, X, Y, Z, ABC. It should just be set up to where we're all human beings at the end of the day, and because we're all that we have, we're all that we got. So it's like if we don't look out for each other, then how the heck you expect things to get better or rather into a better, prosperable life, not just for us, but also for all people around the United States and also for all people around the world too. So that's my final thoughts on that, man.
Amen. Amen to that, bro. Amen to that, man.
But I want to thank you, man, for definitely hopping on here into this podcast. I really, 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 truly, truly appreciate it because it has been a struggle. It has been a struggle trying to get people up on this joint, but like, hey, let's but so I definitely appreciate you hopping on in here and chopping it out on me on such this great topic, man. I really, really appreciate you, man.
Hey, man, anything for an OG, man. We go way back. So anything for you, my guy.
Same way, like vice versa. You got any if you got any other projects or need any help with anything, just hit me up. Just hit me up, man. I got you.
Hey, you know I do. I always be on my grind. So looking forward to working with you in the future, bro.
Definitely, man. Definitely, man. But all right, y'all. This is going to conclude the very first episode of Matters of the People. So I appreciate all of the 3 to 4 people that attended to this live. If you guys have any final comments, let me look at these comments just to make sure I don't miss anyone. Let's see. Alrighty. Looks like we don't have any new comments, which is perfectly fine. But that's going to wrap it up for Matters of the People episode 1. I will go back either sometime next Wednesday or Thursday, probably around the same time frame, around 7:15, 7:20. So Tony, if you're interested and come back on here, you're more than welcome to, because I'm not going to force you. We all gotta like we all got our own priorities. So I'm not going to force you to hop back on here if you want to, but I would love for you to hop back on here if you would like, because I know you probably got so much stuff going on and everything. So if you would like to,
I'm totally down. I'm totally down. You ain't gotta ask me twice.
Definitely. Definitely, man. But all right, y'all. I will well, if you want to go ahead and close out, you definitely can. Again, it was just a pleasure speaking with you on this great topic, and I'm looking forward to having more great interactions with you on this particular podcast as well, man. So I thank you, and I am truly, truly appreciative of you always, brother.
Hey, always, man. Always, man. Have a great rest of the evening, bro.
All righty, you too, man. All right, so let me go ahead and let's see. All right, y'all. Definitely appreciate my guy Tony, aka Dr. Tony. definitely appreciate him. I also want to thank the 4 people that stick with me throughout the entire live. Definitely appreciate all you guys. And for more Matters of the People content, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And also, if you want to make sure to keep up with all the updates of the podcast that matters to the people, please be sure to make sure that you're not only subscribed, but also make sure that you hit the ring bell notifications so that for every single video or so for every other live stream that I do on this platform, you all will know exactly when I will be going live, and you guys are actually able to know every single update that I do, not just for Matters of the People, but also for AV Automatic Victory. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this entire great series. It was just a great first episode of Matters of the People. And remember, let us all remember that we have to live through the 3 main words of my channel: peace, love, and transparency. Love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care and stay blessed.